But there is one important thing I want to flag it off, Mr. Iyer. Coming back to the issue of the district level, or what I call as the grassroots level banking, the RBI has got a very clear, unstated and probably explicit policy of closing down NBFCs. NBFCs were the shadow banking system which was actually helping the entire rural population for their funds, albeit at a slightly higher cost, but definitely it was packaging the risk element into various such portfolios. And this was keeping India going fairly well. Especially if you go to a small side town like say Kanpur, or if you have to go to Tiruchengodu or some small town, you always see this shadow banking stepping in. Now, if I can believe that NBFCs are being closed and the banks stepping in, I see there is a vacuum and the banks are stepping in. Probably this is the right way to do about it. But we are doing exactly the opposite. We are killing the NBFCs on one hand. We are also corporatizing the banks and making it a wholesale banking. We don't want to believe in retail banking. So there is a huge amount of requirement of funds at the intermediary level, grassroots level for small people, say 2 crores, 3 crores, 1 crore. And this Mudra scheme is a huge bullshit. Now the stock markets can go to hell for some time. We require to either close the stock markets, because that is adding to the financial stress of the people. Now India, unlike say 20 years back, is heavily invested. The middle class is heavily invested through the mutual funds in the stock market.
That is right. That is right.
And the Sensex has fallen from 42,000 and it has even touched 29,000.
Yeah, so when Modi came to power, it was 24. So we're getting there.
No, I'm not talking. This is about the last 1 month fall from the quarantine stay to the quarantine day, as we call it now. So we are seeing a 25% fall, and another 25% is most likely. That's what experts say. So I'm saying, okay, this should not create undue panic, and all that it's going to help is people with fat purses, people with enormous purchasing powers to actually play on the stock market. It's going to rig the stock markets. Right. So close the stock market for some time. Only allow people with genuine sales to come in, genuine purchases to come in. Let it be thinly traded. So be it. Let us do away with speculation, because this is a black swan event, and black swan events require some very, very out of the box thinking. You can't say that, business as usual.
Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I am your host Sri Iyer. To talk about banking, economy and the way forward, we have Sri M R Venkatesh. MRV, welcome to P Guru's channel.
Good morning, sir.
Today we are going through turbulent times, not just today, but over the last few weeks. And this turbulence is expected to last a little longer. And each country seems to have problems unique to its own. I am right now in the United States. Today was the first day that we were told not even to leave our house. And what that means is that we can go and do the most barest essentials, which is like buying groceries, the most essential thing like medicines, if you have to go to a doctor, things like that. But other than that, nothing else. That is the directive that's come. I don't think India has gone down to that level yet, but India has a different problem, which has been something that's been festering for a long time. But let's first talk about banking, and how do you see that, MRV?
Yeah, the banking crisis coupled with the COVID crisis, it's a double whammy, probably triple whammy, if I can. I don't know what that means, but that's what it means. Yeah, it has come at the worst possible time for the Indian industry. Of course, the banking industry has been in some sort of a doldrums since 2012. And it begins with an article in Credit Suisse report, which says that barring the Tata Group and the Mukesh Ambani Group, the 10 large group in India, including Anil Ambani, Adani, SR, Videocon, then you have Lancor, GMR, GVK, so on and so forth. The 10 large group in 2012, mind you, did not earn enough income to pay their interest. Forget the principal.
So this comes under a qualification called as zombie companies, but please continue.
Zombie, or I call it the triumvirate companies, and the triumvirate of the great Manmohan Singh, the great P. Chidambaram, and the great Raghuram Rajan. All the three are potential convicts. Let me put it this way. All the three are potential convicts, and these three chaps had dynamited the banks at that point in time. The fault of the NDA government has been to wish it away. They thought, probably I don't have all the facts and figures, there is a rumor that the Narendra Modi government wanted to have a white paper in 2014 and then did not come about with it on the banking sector. Rightfully so. In hindsight, probably it is wrong. Probably you can have a different point of view, but they did not come about with it. In this, had this white paper been brought about, I think Chidambaram, Raghuram Rajan, and the great Manmohan Singh would have been behind bars. The reason for it is it was Lala banking at that point in time. These 10 corporates were called and given loans. They didn't call. It was not telephone banking as it is proper. It's being understood popularly. The banks called them. Believe it or not, the banks called them and lent money. This is how the NPA culture crept into India at the wholesale level. Once it came about, there was no way you could deconstruct it. You can't wish away an NPA problem, given the fact that you don't have a robust policy making decision. Let me give you a small example. You take a loan to build a 60-kilometer highway, okay, from a bank. Now you have built 20 kilometers of the road. As you progress to the 30-kilometer mark, somebody goes and gets an environmental stay. And that means 6 years delay. Now you don't, not because you are a willful defaulter. On the contrary, you want to pay, but you have not yet completed the road, so you don't get the toll fees, so you are unable to generate revenues. So this is a class of NPA on which I think all of us have contributed. The courts, the policymakers, the bureaucracy, the legislature, everybody has contributed. And this is a substantive chunk which has actually not gone about and got resolved despite the NCLT. So this has, I think, led to somewhere around 6 to 7 lakh crores of write-off from the banking industry. And we have capitalized banks to the extent of 3 lakh crores, 3.5 lakh crores. So there is a vacuum in the banking industry.
The second point I would like to make is in the annals of Indian history, and why Indian history, I think the global history, RBI must rank as the most incompetent regulator in terms of banking history. I think bank after bank after bank has collapsed in India. And you know, Sri Iyer, you and I have grown up in the 70s and the 80s, where you will always find, whether it is a Kannada movie, Tamil movie, or a Hindi movie, the police comes in the 15th reel, last shot, and said, "Koi hilna nahi."
Yes,
you know,
yes.
Like that. Its freeze orders are typically like the police of Bollywood, which says "Koi hilna nahi." And I think what the hell they were doing for the last so many years. Yes Bank's call banking, Rana Kapoor's methodology of banking, wholesale banking, and he is lending to corporates which have dubious balance sheets, doubtful integrity promoters. He is well known since 2014-15. For the last 4 or 5 years, I don't know what the hell was RBI doing. And believe me, nobody in RBI has been taken to task over this, unless RBI's audit team is taken to task. And I am saying this with full responsibility, they are criminally negligent. The barest minimum charge that I can make, barest minimum, I can make it today, is that they are criminally negligent. And what the hell were the auditors of Yes Bank doing? What the hell were the auditors of RBI doing? What the hell were the auditors of the respective banks doing? And when all these were happening, people were green plating the whole loans given to these dubious promoters, dubious companies. And now people are coming and saying, "Oh, this has happened, that has happened," and I don't see any reason. I don't see any reason that we can lay the fault beyond a point at anybody else but at the doorsteps of RBI. Let us be very clear. Unless RBI's people, RBI's audit team, oversight team is taken to task and hauled over the coals, I don't see any vimochanam for Indian banking industry.
Rather, looks like right now it is Virochanam. So, sir, one other small question. Now, there was another raging controversy in the last few days where I think you and I came on probably opposite sides. Although I don't say I took sides, but I'll just say about this. It's about the State Bank of India's chairman being pulled up by the finance minister. And you said that he deserved it. And all I said was she had every right to do that, or at least I quoted a management professional. She had every right to do that, except that when you do it in front of your own juniors, the person who's in the hot seat loses credibility, and it kind of makes everything completely, everybody stops doing anything because they think that, the rank and file will not be able to listen to the person who was being dragged over the coals. So what are your thoughts on that? Is there something more than what meets the eye? Because I saw some other stuff from some other WhatsApp groups. They're like 8 lakh accounts where 5,000 rupees was put into each account, and looks like 2.5 lakh accounts were inoperable because of insufficient KYC or non-existent KYC. And this essentially was what Nirmala Sitharaman's beef was about.
Now, first let us not get into the nitty-gritties. I'll get into the nitty-gritties later. First thing is, now here you have not dealt with State Bank or their inefficiencies. Probably in US you don't have a hands-on experience. You should see their inefficiency. It's really, unless you experience it, you cannot get it. Right? I opened an account last week. I know what it was. So it seemed to be believed. Second, now if this gentleman had to be berated in front of his juniors or his colleagues, so be it. I have been personally humiliated several times by the bank. Not only me. When I say me, I speak of several customers. You go at 1 o'clock, you come at 3 o'clock. You come at 3 o'clock, no, today not possible. Tomorrow you come. Oh, the staff is absent. Absolute disregard to customers. 3, as far as the nitty-gritty goes, now we do not know what was happening. Here is a government which says that it has paid money to 8 lakh people, tea workers, accounts open. Now the bank comes up and says after so many years that the KYC norms are not there. Now if the KYC norms are not there, why did you open the account in the first place? You open an account, but hold that account saying that the KYC norms are not there and quote some RBI. And believe me, RBI and SBI, or there is a member of the RBI who will be on the board of SBI. It is not like Kremlin talking to White House. Please understand, they are symbiotically connected, and all these things have to be thrashed out. And look at, if this were genuine, if these 2 lakh accounts were genuine, people waiting for their money to be drawn, and these are 5,000, 2,000 rupee account holders. If Nirmala Sitharaman doesn't speak for them, who will speak for them? And that is why I took a side, though I'm not a great fan of Nirmala Sitharamanji, but I think she deserves the kudos for speaking for the common man. For the first time, this government has done it. Let us be clear about it. For the first time, we see the bureaucrats taken to hall, Babudam taken to hall, because this government has been patronizing them for long. This is a welcome U-turn, if it is a U-turn.
I think you have a point there, and I hope somebody from the higher ups in State Bank of India and all the PSU banks are listening to this conversation. I'm sure word will trickle out. The underlying message is, I have a follow-up to that. The underlying message is that the PSU banks need to get their act together. So the follow-up question I have is, now many of these banks are merging together. What is the rationale behind that?
I see no rationale. Absolutely, it defies all logic. In fact, India must have 600 district banks, which is controlled by the RBI with robust oversight mechanisms, and each bank must have control over a particular district, but but also have a global outreach. You have State Bank, which has a global outreach. You have Bank of Baroda, you have Canara Bank. That's all. And then we must have concentrate on our local districts. District bank, which knows the flavor of the district, which understands the districts, the employment potential, the commercial potential. Instead, we are creating conglomerates, and we want to have HSBC and Citibank equivalents in India. This was the Chidambaram model, and Chidambaram wanted it. And I don't know why this government is doing this. I think India requires retail banking, requires district level banking, requires banking for the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurial banking is what we require. Instead, we are having wholesale banking. This is, I don't know what is the policy that drives. I'm really baffled. Inexplicable.
So because what's going to happen is in a few years' time, the banker will no longer know the profile of the customer, which is what MRV is hinting at, that when you have a district level bank, the district has a certain GDP of its own, that it can generate so much output, and these are its strengths, these are its weaknesses. This is where you need to, I still remember in the 70s and 80s, there was this post called probationary officer. That man will go to the piece of land where this guy has taken a loan towards, and he will monitor the progress. How is the crop coming? So at least early warning systems they'll be able to get. I'm not sure if that is.
Banking system. There was something called the lead banking system in each district.
Yes, yes.
At least it was Nehruvian in idea, but at least it had touch with the local population. But unfortunately, today I have not. I'm very sorry to say that banks have become very transactional. And banks have become absolutely insensitive to the needs of the people, and they are grossly inefficient, badly managed, highly bureaucratic, and everything goes by what is called as electronic. And God forbid, I do not know what are the backup systems that they have. All is Allah Ishwar Bharosa. I am telling you very clearly, it is Allah Ishwar. It is not artificial intelligence driven. It is Allah Ishwar Bharosa.
Yeah, you're right about the transactional part. In fact, we had a hangout with Professor RV, who's your professor too, about half a year ago or a year ago, when they were starting to put all these fees for checking your ATM balance, and he was sarcastically joking that there is somebody who's going to open the door for you when you're entering the bank premises, and they'll charge you for that, and yes. That lady will smile. I don't need the smile. I'm not paying for the smile. That was his retort. So these are all, I think, habits acquired from looking at the Western banks. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong. The one big difference that I've seen between PSU banks, public sector banks, and US banks is, in the public sector banks, you have the check or whatever you are doing, transaction, it goes through 3 desks, 3 counters or something. Whereas it can all be done in 1 counter, which is what it happens in the US. 1 counter takes care of everything. The only time you need to go and talk to the manager or the next level above is when you have some sort of a collateral or something beyond the normal realm of banking. Whereas you see, I think even in private banks in India, you have more than 1 counter experience, isn't it?
Yeah, that is because we have higher levels of checks and balances. The maker-checker concept is far greater in some of the PSU banks. Of course, it can be argued the other way that we want only one person to clear it. But that's a call each management takes on the internal control, and they are guided by their own rule book, which talks about getting cleared by 2 or 3 layers. And that is, in my view, fairly a good defense for frauds and other things. Be that as it may, India doesn't believe in retail frauds; we believe in wholesale frauds. So
that's true.
So this takes care of where at the board level there is no such checks and balance. But there is one important thing I want to flag it off, Shreya. Coming back to the issue of the district level, or what I call as the grassroots level banking. The RBI has got a very clear, unstated, and probably explicit policy of closing down NBFCs. NBFCs were the shadow banking system, which was actually helping the entire rural population for their funds, albeit at a slightly higher cost, but definitely it was packaging the risk element into various such portfolios. And this was keeping India going fairly well. Especially if you go to a small side town like say Kanpur, or if you have to go to Tirchangodu or some small town, you always see the shadow banking stepping in. So if I can believe that NBFCs are being closed and the banks stepping in, I see there is a vacuum and the banks are stepping in. Probably this is the right way to do it. But we are doing exactly the opposite. We are killing the NBFCs on one hand. We are also corporatizing the banks and making it a wholesale banking. We don't want to believe in retail banking. So there is a huge amount of requirement of funds at the intermediary level, grassroots level for small people, say 2 crores, 3 crores, 1 crore. And this Mudra scheme is a huge bullshit. Let us be very clear. People are ready to swallow it. I am not. And let us be very clear, if you do a proper audit, it is all housing loan to every loan that has been regrouped as Mudra. There is no fresh loan. Or I would say substantial amount of numbers given as Mudra are all bullshit. So the point is there is a huge vacuum. And when there is a vacuum, laws of physics tell you it will attract anything. And the first thing that comes about is the muck. So you will have somebody else who will come in and start funding. And that will again go back into some sort of a violation. And like the police coming in the 15th reel, RBI will come at the fag end and say, koi hilna nahi. Point is, we require grassroots level banking, district level banking. 600 banks are our solution. 600 district level banks, each bank distinct in character, flavor, in its approach, in its priority. And this probably can be linked to each corporate. 600 large corporate must be made, linked with them. So that is their CSR for education, for training. That also takes care of your skill development. For instance, you don't go to Nainital and teach a guy fishing, right? You
Right.
give them tourist. It's a tourist space. You teach them Spanish, for instance, Japanese. You teach them English, so that the tourists, when they come, these guys are able to take care. But when you come to Kanyakumari, you teach them fishing, right? So
Right.
you do this and you give the corporate responsibility along with the banks. This is the model India requires, not this type of large monolith banks which are going to, and then they will have huge corporates. And then when the corporates don't pay, you will have this too big to fail theory, and all of us will be paying through our noses.
Right, right. Thanks for actually, you intercepted my question and you answered that too. Now let's take a look at economy. The stock market in the United States is almost given up all the gains that it had under Trump. 3.5 years of gain is wiped out. And we are now around 20,000. The Dow is around 20,000. It was at 16.8 or 17 when Trump came to power. And we are not done yet. Every day there is something new happening. And for example, the United States is a large country, and to shut it down is not easy. But what is alarming is today people were found in long unemployment lines. These are all the government offices where you go and apply for unemployment insurance, where you get about 2 months dole, but you have to go and sign in there. Now the reason, we are talking about thousands today, just one day. And the reason that is happening is because the work culture has changed. I had a hangout, Mr. Amari, I'm just coming to the point, just bear with me for a second. I had a hangout a few weeks ago where I said that a company like Google has 102,000 employees and 120,000 contractors. And the reason there are so many contractors is because they are easy come, easy go. So what you're seeing today in the lines outside the government unemployment exchanges is all these, are all these contractors who have been laid off. They don't even get 2 weeks notice. It can be instant. Overnight, you can be laid off. So what is going to happen is this is going to create a lot of stress on the system. The United States government has already done one quantitative easing, which is giving money to the banks. What for? The more substantive proposal was to give $1,000 a month for the next 3 or 4 months per person, per family, so that they have some way of seeing their way clear through this mess. This is not something that anybody made. This is beyond all that. So that one, it has not been voted on. Although I'm hearing that something like that is going to come down the pipeline in the next couple of days. Now, so this 2008 crisis is being compared with this one. I don't think they are the same. This one is going to have lasting damage because of the fact that people are not really employed. Most of the companies have inverted their incorporation. They're all based out of Ireland. They stopped paying taxes a long time ago. So the only thing the government can do is print notes, which they have already done once. $700 billion quantitative easing last week. Unfortunately, that is going into the banks. That I'm not so sure is the right thing to do. Anyway, so how are things playing out in India? Because the reason I'm asking is, last few years I've been noticing many people are now employed in India also as consultants. They're not full-time.
See, this is a black swan event. And where the bottom lies, I don't know. I can see Mexico from Chennai. In the sense that is the level of the hole. It's a bottomless hole. I would put it like that.
Right.
So let us not crib at the stock market falling from 30,000 Dow to 20,000. It may go up to even 5,000. In the sense that is the level to which it can go. And this is and if you are going to talk about shutting off US, it is unimaginable. As you said, shutting off US, shutting off India. And last evening when I was in Delhi airport, the occupancy of flight was around less than 20%. So I don't think the flights are going to operate beyond, say, another 5-7 days. Then they'll all be compelled to stop. Because there's no point in operating flights at 20% or 10% capacities.
Correct.
So we are looking at trains are so bad, buses are so bad. So everything is coming to a spiraling stop. Now, if this goes on, I was talking to my father. My father said, even if you pay me, where is the money where is the earning capacity of people?
Correct.
That comes to a stop. And when the earning comes to a full stop, the production also comes to a full stop. Let us understand this. This is a very serious problem we are facing. Now, I can give you $10,000, but you don't have anything in the grocery shop. You don't have anything in the garment shop. What do? You can't eat $10,000.
Right.
Luckily or unluckily, we can't eat dollars and say dollar is more tasty than the rupee.
Right.
So there is a crisis of unimaginable proportions which has not been tested even during the Great Depression.
True.
So we are seeing something where not only you are talking about Google coming to an end. I am seeing the small cycle puncture shop coming to a full stop in Chennai, which means I can't use my cycle.
Right.
And which means I don't pay the cycle shop owner, which means he doesn't have money, which means he can't go to the grocer.
Correct.
And like that, if vegetables from hinterland don't come to Coimbatore market or don't come to the wholesale market, next 3 weeks I look at rice and pulses and vegetables coming to a full stop. So it is, so quantitative easing or putting money into my account is not the solution. Probably it may give me a psychological satisfaction that I got 10,000 rupees in my bank balance. But how do I withdraw when the banks don't work? How do I go to the grocer when the grocer is not there? And even if he opens his shop, I see empty shelves. I saw a clip from Walmart this morning. The queue was around a mile long.
Right.
The panic that has set in US and the panic has set in Singapore. These are all advanced countries. I saw people fighting for tissue papers and tissue rolls in London. I can't imagine these countries which are called so developed are chickening out in the third day of the battle.
Right.
So we are in for some long haul. So let us, I think even suspending the stock market or closing the stock markets, suspending short sales for the time being, these are all things that government has to step in. These are extraordinary times. We are late by almost 15-20 days. US should have banned short sales some 3 weeks back. Algorithm trade should have been stopped. These are things people should have taken. Only mutual funds and genuine sellers with backing of scripts can be allowed to sell today.
None of that happened, and it's continuing to, the stock market is continuing to roll along. Yes.
You will bleed and you will have a hemorrhage.
Yes, and we have to understand that, the heads of state in various countries they have gaps in their vision of how things ought to work. And Mr. Trump is obsessed with the stock market. He thinks that the stock market is doing well. He's doing well for his re-election, and right now he's not doing so well. And I just saw the acceptance speech of Joseph Biden after he won Illinois and Florida. More or less, he's now confirmed. He's sounding much more like a president, in the sense he's saying these are the things that we need to look at. For example, 3 days ago in a debate, he suggested that US deploy its own military to start building up hospitals on a war footing. He said you need to, because we haven't tested, so we don't know how many are affected. You see, that is a big question mark. In US, you have not been tested.
Yeah, same in India.
Yeah.
But again, you see, you can't. It's easy said than done. Now, the army officer who's going to start building your hospital also runs the risk of coronavirus. Please understand.
That's true. Let's assume for a moment, sir. Let's assume for a moment that they know how to inoculate themselves. I mean, that has been a problem underlying even in China, right? I mean, there are some doctors who have died there too.
So we are running. So it's good for Joe Biden to come and say that, look, we will build a hospital using the army. But the problem is, who will bell the cat? Everywhere, this is the problem. People are in outlandish, give outlandish ideas, give some fantastic speeches, but don't know how to execute. There's a huge divergence between ideas and execution. Now, in India, let me tell you from the Indian perspective. Now, the stock markets can go to hell for some time. We require to either close the stock markets, because that is adding to the financial stress of the people. Now, India, unlike, say, 20 years back, is heavily invested. The middle class is heavily invested through the mutual funds in the stock market.
That is right.
And the Sensex has fallen from 42,000 and it has even touched 29,000.
Yeah, so when Modi came to power, it was 24. So we're getting there.
No, I'm not talking. This is about the last 1 month fall from the Valentine's Day to the quarantine day, as we call it now. So we are seeing a 25% fall, and another 25% is most likely. That's what experts say. So I'm saying, okay, this should not create undue panic, and all that it's going to help is people with fat purses, people with enormous purchasing powers to actually play on the stock markets. It's going to rig the stock markets.
Right.
So close the stock market for some time. Only allow people with genuine sales to come in, genuine purchases to come in. Let it be thinly traded. So be it. Let us do away with speculation, because this is a black swan event, and black swan events require some very, very out of the box thinking. You can't say that, business as usual.
And for the record, Philippines has closed its stock exchange today. So the countries are starting to do that. So India shouldn't feel that we will be the first ones to do that. Not true.
When everything can be shut down, why not stock markets?
Of course.
When everything is shut down, why do you want to have the stock markets go on? Close it down.
In fact, stock market shutdown is like a holding pattern. You're just holding where you are. And let something else, define what is going to happen. Let the dust settle down, and then you start again. Nothing is going to happen. In fact, India is such a shallow stock market. This is just, pink newspapers and outraging on, business channels. That's all it is. But you have a valid point about. Go ahead.
All of them are paid channels. All of them are bozos, and all of them have as much understanding of economics as my grandmother had understanding of Japanese cuisine.
Well, no wonder you and I don't get invited anymore to these channels, but that's okay.
I don't want to be seen in the company anyway.
So, what is the solution going forward? There is some unknown. Given that there is an unknown, what do you suggest people have to do?
See, unless I know what is the unknown, I can't suggest. See, please understand, the coronavirus is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Unless you have a vaccine for it, unless you test it out and say that, look, this is the vaccine and we are able to control it and bring down the mortality rates, we are able to control it. I see things going from bad to worse.
Well,
And let me tell you, governments have to, for instance, we have to do away with the clinical trials and the FDA levels of testing for a normal drug. We may have to hasten it for, say, in the next 15 days. Or it may look at this is what is the response Trump has to do, probably Narendra Modi has to do, and take that risk.
Yes. So here is, so I looked at the website that Google has developed. So all it does is, it is right now deployed for 2 districts. We call them counties in US. It is deployed for 2 districts, which is happen to be, one of them happens to be mine. So what it does is, it asks you, what is your age? And then it's like a over or less than 50 kind of thing. After that, it asks, do you have fever? And if you say no or yes, based on that, I think it's asking more questions. But what it says, if you say no, all it is saying is, fine, we are not going to call you for testing right now. Anyway, all the test labs today are full. So they just opened for 24 hours ago. All the test facilities are already overbooked. They don't have ways to test. The test kits are still coming in. This is for United States. And therefore, you have to just, Ram Bharosa, you have to do it that, okay, I'm not getting fever. Hopefully, I have not had an exposure. And that's how things are going to go. Certainly, many people are working offline. Not offline, online from their homes. And the bigger question that keeps coming back, doing what? If I'm going to do a better software to make me get a product 5 seconds faster, if the product is not there, what is the point in doing all this? So this is a conundrum. They have to get to the bottom of this thing to see, have I got my hands around this virus? Until that happens, until there are known instances of, had it, took this medicine, and he got cured in 2-3 days, that cycle has to complete. Until then, we are going through a dark tunnel.
Exactly. That's why I said the biggest challenge today, forget everything, get this coronavirus out of the system. Every conversation, every damn paper, every damn political leader, business leader, even business channels are talking about coronavirus. And every idiot, Tom, Dick and Harry has become a doctor. So we have to break this cycle. We have to get a cure. We have to get a probably, vaccine or whatever you call it. We have to get a cure and say, okay, coronavirus, all I have to take is this drug for 6 days, I'm through with it. And unless that confidence comes in, we will be like Maharishi Ramana, asking the question, who am I, what for am I living, and what am I doing?
Right.
You ask the existential questions.
Correct.
And we have no answers for that.
Well, I guess some simple things that can be done is, since you can't go out, learn to cook. I guess this is for those people who have been used to getting food ordered from Swiggy and other places. These are all contaminants. We remember that it's being delivered in many places. So there is a certain amount of risk with that. And, that's all we can say.
Spend time with your family.
Yes.
And start taking some personal care, like, you have wear and tear on your body. Start repairing them and see if coronavirus doesn't hit you and everything is back to normal in the next 15-20 days. Start leading your normal life.
Absolutely. And I think this is going to be a sharp pain, but it will go away fast, because it's not like, let's say it's not in the air. See, that would have been a much worse thing. If this was an airborne disease, it would have been much worse.
I have a different take. The next one, the corona version, say 2021, could be one which is airborne.
I see.
So the lesson, if we learn from it and say that, okay, we have to prepare for it. This is a cost well spent. But if we are going to be like business as usual and forget what hit us in 2020, I'm sure the next round of virus is going to be much more virulent, and we don't have drugs for it.
Well, it's sobering thought. And MRV, thank you very much for joining our panel today and sharing your thoughts on this. So I think at the end, there's always a silver lining, guys. I mean, just wait for 3 or 4 more days. Let's get some more data. Data is the most important thing that is now eluding us. Once we have that, that will start, giving you the story. And like I said, I'm hearing something from Roche that is going to be deployed. 1 million kits are being readied. and there are also, other remedies. Essentially, if you stay with the food you have been eating for generations, that might help also. This is just one of those grandma kind of remedies, but this is just something that all I can tell you is I am right now very happy eating idli dosas. I don't know how many of you like to do something like that, because if you have jaundice, the one thing that you can still digest is idlis. Remember that. Thank you very much, MRV.
Thank you.